What's up, guys? MC Stu here, and today we're going to talk about some upgrades to ships that are being introduced to the game, what this means to the game. Are these tier 7s? What are we looking at, and what's the info on them? What's it going to cost, and the implications? Let's jump into it. All right, so let's start at the beginning here. So if you're newer to the game, you understand the full scope. So when you purchase a ship from the Z store, a just standard tier 6 ship, you are going to get a ship that looks similar to this. I mean, obviously the layout can change, but basically you are going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 console slots, unless it is a miracle worker ship. A miracle worker ship will have one additional universal slot up top here. Most ships, or a good amount of the ships in the Z store, have a fleet version of it. So what that means is if you purchase a ship for one fleet module, you'll be able to go to the vendor and basically get a whole new ship. It'll look the same. Generally, it'll have a new skin that you can use, and it's going to have a larger hull. It's going to have an additional console slot that's added to it. So in the instance of this particular ship, I believe it gets another tactical console, and we'll show this here in a moment. So once you have the fleet version of the ship now you can apply an X upgrade to it. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the fleet version of this ship that has the X upgrade so you can see what this looks like. Okay, so this is the fleet version of the ship. It did not get it got an extra science console slot for the fleet version on this, and then I have applied an X upgrade to it, which has now given it a universal console. So now we have a total of 12 consoles on this ship. If this was a miracle worker ship from the C store, we went through that same progression of getting the fleet version, doing the X upgrade, it would have one additional one at a total of 13 consoles. So, and let me just count that out to make sure. So we have 5, 6, that's 11, 12, and 13 if it were a miracle worker ship. So that would be the greatest number of consoles you could currently have on a ship. Now with that X upgrade, it also unlocks an additional trait slot. So if you are new to the game and you haven't unlocked some of these extras, this slot here on the end, this 5th slot, is unlocked using your fleet and using fleet resources. You could basically unlock that via in-game activities. And when you X upgrade a ship, you get this 6th slot. So if you hadn't unlocked this slot, you could still X upgrade it, and that would give you the 5th slot down here. So what has been announced is that they are going to be allowing us to do an X2 is what they are calling it. So let's go ahead and just take a look at what they have posted here in the notes for the new season that's going to be launched. And what we have is tier 6 ship upgrade expansion. So upgrade to tier 6X, upgrade to tier 6X, upgrade a tier 6X to a tier 6-2, or X2. So what this is going to allow is basically for another addition of the same kind of buff that you get from doing the first X upgrade. So it's going to give you an additional Starship trait slot, universal console, and device slot. So what that means is on a ship like this particular one, we are going to have a whole nother trait slot. So that's going to be 7 traits. And then we're going to get another console slot, which on this ship would be the 13th. I already forgot my math. 6 plus 5 is 11, 12, 13th slot. And if this was a miracle worker ship, you would have actually a 14th slot because it already comes with that one extra console. So years and years back, before tier 6 ships, tier 5s obviously were the best. They introduced tier 6 ships with the introduction of Starship traits and those kinds of things. There was, people that were very unhappy about that, which I understand. You've bought and grinded and spent money for, getting the best ships in the game at tier 5, and an update comes out that basically replaces those, and now you have to get all new ships again. So that was really kind of a crappy thing. I understand it because it did come with a huge expansion in terms of the mechanics of the game with the Starship traits. It's just one of those things. And in hindsight, I'm glad they did it. I wasn't around during that time, so I don't have any kind of negative emotion about it. But I'm glad that change did happen. And so there's been speculation for a while. Is there ever going to be tier 7 ships? And I think they've said on multiple different 10 forwards that they are not going to do that. And I think that this is their answer to it, obviously. So the X upgrades were added in a year or two back. I think it was 2 years back. And that allowed you to upgrade your ship without having to go and buy a whole new one and with a new tier. Now we can add a second one to that, which is allowing us to upgrade even farther. So if we call the first upgrade you do X upgrade on your ship, makes it quote unquote a tier 7. Now we're at basically tier 7X. That's the clickbait in the title. Sorry about that. But that's essentially where we're sitting. So once this goes live next week on the 12th, is that next week? That's actually the week after next. And then in the beginning of November for console, you are going to be able to upgrade your ship again. So what's not clear, and I've asked, or I put out the question on Twitter and tagged Star Trek Online, the community manager, Kale. I haven't gotten any kind of response. I'm assuming with probably next week's blog post, we'll get some more details on this. But my number one question is it going to be the same token that you use? So as it is currently, and I don't think I have any in my inventory right now, but basically you'll have a token in your inventory, and there's different ways to get those tokens. We'll talk about that in a moment. But there's an X upgrade token. You go to the ship vendor, and there'll be a button at the bottom, and you say apply X upgrade, and it unlocks that extra console slot, the extra trait slot, and it does also give you another device slot. And as you can see here, I'm not even using all of my device slots. Another one really for me is not a big deal, so I didn't really mention that because it's really kind of inconsequential for what's available to us to use there. So the big things are the console slot and the trait slot. So my biggest question, number one, is there going to be a new X Upgrade 2 token? Or are we going to be able to use the current tokens and just apply it to a particular ship again? So for example, this particular ship is already a tier 6X. I have a stack of those tokens in my inventory or in my bank. Once that goes live, will I be able to just go to the ship vendor and apply another one of these upgrades, making this an X2? Or is there going to be a new resource added to the game that is a specific X2 token that you have to use on the second upgrade? So that's my number one question. I hope that's not the case. That would be a bummer if you had to, farm out multiple different ones of these. So hopefully it's the same kind of thing, or the same thing. So that's number one. That's an open question. And I guess, either way, if they make it as easy to get a hold of as the other ones, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But I'm sure, like many of you through the events and different things like that, it would be nice if we were able to just use those same X upgrades in order to get to the level 2 on the upgrades. Let's talk about power creep. Without X upgrades, if you know what you're doing and you have good gear that you've acquired over time of playing, the hardest content in the game is not that hard. When you add an X upgrade like we currently do, it gets even easier. And with a whole nother one, that power creep is real. Now there's a lot of players that just kind of play casually and they struggle on certain content, and this isn't going to really make a big difference for you one way or another. But I hope that we see some harder queues added, or some harder versions of queues added to add challenge, especially for a lot of the endgame players and players that, are building around damage and those kinds of things. I know players that can solo elite TFOs by themselves, as is, and now we're looking at adding this extra stuff. So I hope to see them add harder content in that's good, compelling stuff, or at least harder versions of what we currently have to add that challenge. I'm not one of those people that get upset about the power creep one way or another. So, I'm not saying, oh, this is bad or this is good. That's really going to be a matter of your perspective. For me, the game on the harder levels is already not that hard. So at this point, it's kind of like, what difference does it make? This will allow, at least for me and the way I play, to expand those combinations of, build gear and traits and those kinds of things. And I think we'll have a lot of fun with it. So I think overall, this is, for me, I'm pretty excited about it. And I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Lastly, let's talk about the overall cost and where this really puts, a C-Store ship at if you want to have it fully upgraded. You can buy these tokens in the Z-Store, And let me just find them here. They're basically 3 for $20. So you have a 3-pack here, $20, and then your fleet modules are $5. So let's just do the math here. You buy a ship that does have a fleet variant. And just to be clear, some ships do not have a fleet variant. And when that is the case, you essentially are getting what would have been that fleet variant when you buy it. So if you buy like the Lexington, it's going to come with the same amount of consoles that another ship would that has a fleet version and that fleet version. So if you're looking at ships that don't have the fleet version, you're saving yourself a step of having to upgrade it because it's already going to have that extra console and those extra things. But a lot of the ships in the game have fleet versions, just like the ones that were just released, the Justicar and the other 3 that came out with that. So basically, we're looking at $6.66 continuing per X upgrade. So you're going to need 2 of those. So we're going to go times 2. We were going to go times 2. We'll redo that here. So we got times, and we'll just make it round. Okay, so you're going to need $13.32 worth of upgrades to do that. If you're buying a ship that has the fleet version, you're going to need a fleet module upgrade. So that's going to be another $5. And then you have the base cost of the ship itself is $30. So what that does is that takes a standard C-Store ship to have it, fully upgraded to about $48. Obviously, we're talking American dollars. That's where I live. So do the math if it's different for you. But we're looking at $48 for a standard C-Store ship to have it fully upgraded to the max, the highest quote-unquote tier that you could be. So, I mean, that's more money, that you're putting out. And I understand everything's getting more expensive. I understand the game's got to make money. I don't like the way that this entire game is monetized, so I have really kind of a negative view about this in general. But to be fair, there's no subscription. You don't have to pay for the game. You don't have to buy a ship. You don't have to upgrade it. And there's lots of other routes for getting these things, which we'll briefly discuss here in just a moment. So in general, for what this game is, which is a free-to-play, expensive game if you want the things, it's not terrible, I guess. But just so you know, if you're newer, you haven't grinded events and done things where you have some of these resources already, this is basically the dollar amount that you're looking at. All of these things go on sale, so this could be up to 20 to 25% cheaper to be able to do that if you buy these items while they're on sale. So lastly, all of these items that it takes to upgrade a ship, let's say you already have a tier 6 ship, but let's say it's not even a fleet version yet. There are ways within game without major amounts of grinding to get X upgrades and fleet modules. So for fleet modules, number one, if you go into your rep system, and I think I've used probably most of mine, but once you complete tier 6 reputation, you will be able to purchase 1 fleet module. Actually, I do have one right here. You'll be able to buy 1 fleet module per rep for 100 marks, which is basically they're giving you a free one for each of these. So if you're newer or you don't have all of this unlocked on your reputation, I'd highly recommend, doing that, making sure this is unlocked, because you'll be able to pick up a free ship upgrade for each of the reputations. So that's one way that you can take that C-Store ship without spending the money and upgrading it to the fleet version, or getting the fleet version. That's not really an upgrade because you end up with 2 ships. One's the standard ship and one is the fleet ship. If you own a C-Store ship and there is that fleet version, it only costs 1. You can purchase fleet versions of the ships without owning the C-Store version or the Z-Store version of it, but it's going to cost you 5 of these. So it's really, it ends up being cheaper just to have the C-Store version and going ahead and getting the fleet version for that particular ship. Next, the X upgrades, they give those away sometimes in the promo tab. So if you come here and you check in, sometimes you'll find those listed here. There's also quite a few events where they'll include X upgrades. And let's take a look at the current Red Alert event. So the current Red Alert event, if you do this for the 10 days, you're going to get an X upgrade. So you can get these fairly often for free just by playing these mini events. And these aren't real long ones, so this one's only 10 days. The other way to go about doing that, and I don't know if I have any Phoenix tokens here, but if you go into the Phoenix store, and I don't think I have any on me. But the Phoenix store, and I'll link in the description for the how to use the Phoenix system if you're brand new. But basically, you can exchange dilithium, and I guess I'll buy one here. So if you get a Phoenix box, and I'm just going to grab one just to demonstrate, and you open that box, you're going to get a token. You click on the token. There's 4 different kinds of tokens. And if you scroll here, you can look at the different things. You can downgrade them. I'm not going to go into detail on this, but they run events where they will take the, they'll offer, it looks like actually they're running an event right now. Okay. That's awesome. So for different amounts of these 3 bottom tiers, you can pick up X upgrades here. And this is actually the cheapest way to do it, is to take your dilithium and buy yourself the Phoenix boxes, open them, and the Phoenix boxes are here. You get a discount with the buying 10 at a time, but open those, get yourself a bunch of these Phoenix tokens, and then utilize those to get your X upgrades. That's the most efficient way to do it. So apart from buying the ship, you can get these upgrades and the fleet modules very, very inexpensive. So as long as they stay with these experimental upgrades and you can just apply 2 of them, one for the initial and one for the X2, then this is going to be awesome. If they introduce a new resource that you have to buy with money, that's going to kind of be a bummer, even if it's cheap. I don't want to have to keep paying, to keep my ship at top tier. I've already bought the ship, and so I want the ability to be able to grind for these resources in-game. I've already paid the money. And like I said, I don't want to have to keep paying to keep upgrading my ship. So if they do another resource and it's only cash shop, that's going to really bother me. If they do another resource and you can grind it in game through events in the same way, that's kind of a bummer, but it's fair. I can still get it for free. I can play the content, and I can continue to keep my ship at top tier. So those are the other 2 ways to go about doing that. Upgrading your current ships. Obviously, you can still, if you don't have any tier 6 ships yet, you can do the year-long event. You can do the dilithium exchange. All of those things are going to take a good amount of time. The game's free to play, but it's not free to have whatever you want. It's either going to cost you money or it's going to cost you a good amount of time, and that's just the way it is. So that's the ins and outs on this, guys. Like I said, I'm kind of mixed. I'm excited for the prospect of being able to continue to upgrade the ship. I hope that they add content in that requires those kind of upgrades, because as it is now, even without the first X upgrade, the content in the game is easily beatable without that. So I hope they do that. I hope that they don't make a new resource. I hope we're able to continue to use that same resource multiple times on the ship and go that route. Worst case scenario would be it's a new resource and it's only cash shop. I don't foresee that happening. My guess is that it will be the same exact resource, but we don't know that for sure. We should know sometime next week, and once we know that, I'll do an update for you guys there. But essentially, on my count, this will put us at a tier 7X, with obviously tier 6, and then tier 6 having the X upgrade, making it essentially kind of tier 7, and now with a second upgrade, making it a tier 7X. So let me know what you guys think. Are you excited for this? Do you not think it's needed? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Appreciate hearing back from you guys, and that'll do it for now. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Thank you very much for watching. Hey guys, appreciate you watching. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, ring the bell, and sub to the channel for the latest news updates and how-to guides.